Hey guys, how is everybody doing? And today I'm going to be talking about the Alien prequel. Now, the reason I say prequel in air quotes is because this movie doesn't really feel like a prequel to the original 1979 Alien, which to an extent you can say that it is. There are elements there here and there to where it gives off tiny little Easter eggs and tiny little elements that it pays homage or pays off the build up from that original movie and kind of gives us the answers to the questions that we probably would have had to it. But if I don't know the full history on the making of this movie, I only know a little bit. What I do know is that apparently this movie was never meant to be a prequel. There's a different not a different actor. There was a different director attached to a different Alien project, to where it was going to be a direct sequel to Aliens or try to do like a redo of Alien 3. I think there was some sort of way of, excuse me, of following up Aliens, but Ridley Scott kind of came over, took that over, and canceled it, and made Prometheus, which is a prequel to the original movie. But him and the one of the writers of the movie said that they didn't want it to be a full blown prequel to the original '79 movie, and that instead of doing that, they decided to make like a whole new story and a whole new movie, but still putting little Easter eggs and little hints to the original '79 movie, which I feel that's why a lot of people don't like this movie is because back when this movie came out, I didn't see advertisements for it because at the time I was very young. I believe I was maybe 3 or 4 years old if I'm not mistaken. Back when this movie came out, I was around that age. But I believe false advertisement kind of really screwed this movie over because a lot of people don't like this movie because it was just falsely advertised. It was falsely advertised for me too when I first watched this movie because what I was told, and basically what everybody else was told, is that this was a prequel to the original 1979 Alien, and this is going to give us all the answers to the questions we might have had to the original, like certain things, like what the xenomorph is, where it comes from, where did the Queen Alien come from, whatever questions that we had. This movie was basically going to tell us what happened. And then we got a different movie by Ridley Scott, which had alien moments, but instead paid to basically just made a movie about an explanation about life. Mhm. Well, with that all out of the way, let's get into my thoughts about Prometheus. So, starting off with my positives on Prometheus, and something that I've always remembered from this movie, even years later. This was my first time rewatching this movie in like 5 years, I think, or maybe even more. It's been a very long time since I watched this movie, but every time I think of this movie, the one thing I always remember is that this movie is absolutely visually stunning, to where it is gorgeous to look like when they're flying through space or when they go onto this planet wherever they are to go through this temple or whatever. This movie is just beautiful to look at, and especially this movie being like 12 years old, I believe. Yeah, this movie's like not yeah, 12 years old. God, that is crazy to think about. And just considering how old this movie is and how much technology has advanced in like in a decade, this movie still looks really good, and it really surprised me when I watched this movie because I was like, okay, this I do remember this movie having a lot of CGI. It's probably not going to age well. It's probably not going to look very good, but let's see what happens. But this movie was just absolutely stunning to look at, and it absolutely blew my mind how amazing this movie looked, and I was generally shocked. And I always bring this up, no matter what, even like today's time. I still do this. It's like it's embarrassing to think that a movie that's 12 years old looks better than most movies today, and it's kind of a sad thing to think about when you think about it. Cinematography. I've said this multiple times. I don't really talk about cinematography much in movies, so when I talk about it, you know it's good. And the cinematography in this movie is just absolutely gorgeous along with the visual effects because this movie it's cinematography when it just really shows off the landscape or just shows off wherever our characters really are on the spaceship or outside when it's blowing like this weird wind with like it looks like there's metal in it. I think they said what's in it, but I can't remember. But the cinematography in this movie is just absolutely stunning and just absolutely beautiful, to where it really shows you the landscape and it really shows you the world that our characters are in or what planet they're on. It just really shows it off, and it does a really good job, to where like even when they're in space, when I talk about visually stunning, this kind of goes along with that, just like looking at at space or the planets or whatever they're flying by, it just looks gorgeous, and it just absolutely looks amazing. And again, it just blows my mind how well it looks. The absolute standout in this entire movie and its sequel is Michael Fassbender. I absolutely love Michael Fassbender as an actor. He's one of my favorite working actors today. I do think he is the better Magneto. I'm sorry, he just really is. He just absolutely awesome in that role. But Michael Fassbender, every time he shows up in a movie and every time he's set to star or show an appearance in a movie, I always get excited because I absolutely love Michael Fassbender and he absolutely steals the show in this movie as David. Now, I will admit there are moments here and there to where his performance seems a bit wonky or a bit weird. I guess there's a lot of moments in this movie to where he's kind of weird, to where like he is a robot, he is an android in this movie, so I get it. That's what he's meant to play is like this weird android like thing, and his performance sometimes can feel weird, but I get it. That's what they're going for with his character, to where he's like walking really weird. Sometimes he just goes, it's weird. But the way he trays the android or the robot, whatever they call him in this franchise anymore, but just the way he performs his android and like has this human like factors to where he's like learning to be a human and learning to learning these human like effects kinda to make the humans he's around to make them feel comfortable around him, so where he seems human-like, so everyone else around him, it feels comfortable around him, but he just does an amazing job, and I remember in the sequel, he's even better, if I'm not mistaken, but I haven't seen Alien coming in a long time, not long time. But, yeah, Michael Fassbender is the absolute standout in this movie, and he is one of the main reasons this movie is just so rewatchable. And of course, and I think this is the reason like why everybody was so excited for this movie and when it was advertised as an Alien prequel, is seeing the return of Ridley Scott to direct this movie. Now, if you don't know, Ridley Scott is the director of the original Alien movie, and he came back to do Prometheus and its sequel, Alien Covenant. And he was the main reason I got so excited back when I bought this movie on Blu-ray a few years ago, which I didn't like at first. But Ridley Scott coming back to direct a prequel and to direct another Alien movie, it's just awesome. And why it's so cool is because this movie does feel like the original movie in some ways because of his directing abilities, which I'm not affected by. I thought that was God, excuse me, that was really cool, and I just really liked how it had that same like suspense like the original movie did, which I have a feeling was because of the return of Ridley Scott in the director's chair. But Ridley Scott, he's one of my favorite directors. He's directed some of my all-time favorite movies of all time. So seeing him come back to do another Alien-ish project and just to see him kind of build up that suspense and build up that momentum like he did in the first movie and to bring it back to the series again, I felt it was because he was in the chair is why it worked so well here. But yeah, seeing the return of Ridley Scott was just awesome. Moving onto my mixed aspects, and that is and obviously what the main issue was for this movie back when it first came out is that you don't get to see much of the aliens. There are a few moments here and there to where there are alien-ish like creatures, to where there's like this weird squid-looking thing that the girl gets a C-section of because she wants it out of her, and she knows there's something bad because her boyfriend turned into like this weird murderous monkey and to where she gets a C-section and there's like this weird squid looking thingy, I don't know what it is, and they quickly kill it off, so we don't really get a payoff with it. And then you get like this like weird snake looking thingy that was the coolest alien design in this movie that I really liked, and it's a shame that we only got to see it once. I would have liked to see it more. Then you get this like weird big fucking face hugger at the end of the movie that just goes on top of this whatever that thing is called, and he just fucking puts his entire body on him. It's just like it looked like a giant starfish. That's what it kind of looked like to
What the fuck is that?
describe it. Or it kind of looked like the giant starfish at the end of the Suicide Squad. It kind of looked like that. It was so weird. It just caught me off guard. But you know, the reason it's kind of in my mixed aspects and why it doesn't bother me too much is because I kind of like that about this movie to where I've been binge watching the entire Alien series, so I've watched four movies and two Predator Alien vs Predator movies, and those are fucking a lot. Those are six movies, which is nothing but aliens. So to kind of get a breath of fresh air, of like new content in a way, and new ideas thrown out there. I kind of like that, and not seeing much of the aliens was kind of like a breath of fresh air for me. Like, if maybe it's just because I just been watching all these alien movies back to back, which probably plays a factor in it, but I don't know. Maybe it was just a breath of fresh air, but it does kind of bother me a little bit because it kind of throw me off my momentum watching the series. Just like, oh yeah, this is the one without the aliens. But moving on to my negatives, and the main reason about this movie and why I feel this movie doesn't get the love that I think it needs is because this movie was falsely advertised as an Alien prequel, but instead we got this commentary, Ridley Scott movie on commentary about life, like where do we come from, like who created us, who is our God, basically. That is what this movie is, but I guarantee you, anybody who's an Alien fan did not want that for this movie. No one wanted a commentary about life or where we came from, what we are, who created us, what is our God? What is our God? That's basically this movie. It's just like, well, no one paid to see that. People paid to see aliens. Just we want to see that, not boring commentary on life. We want boring commentary on life. We'd watch Passion of the Christ. I still have never seen Passion of the Christ. But it doesn't bother me a lot, especially since I knew what I was going into this time. But it's just like I didn't want that. I don't want to see that movie. Maybe this could have worked as its own standalone thing, but when you advertise this as an Alien prequel, and you're wondering why people are mad about your movie when they don't get that part, that's on you. You falsely advertised your movie. And if anything, this is a nitpick, and these characters make some of the dumbest decisions in this movie. There are moments to hear, it's just like, what? Why would you do that? The one reason that I hate that is like there's one part in this movie. It's kind of like in the middle of the movie, like maybe 45, 50 minutes in, I think. And there's a moment to where these two characters is like this red-headed Scottish guy, or maybe he was Irish. He sounded Scottish. And then there's this one guy who looks like a nerd or whatever. I don't know. I don't know their names. None of these characters are really memorable. But they kind of departure from the group to go do whatever they were gonna do. I think they tried to leave, but then they ended up getting trapped in the temple. But they then they go into the room to where our characters find the separate head that they ended up leaving with to study it or look it over. Like, what is this? What is this thing, basically? And these characters go into that same room. They kind of look at all this. God, excuse me, I keep burping. They look at all these weird egg things that have black goo coming out of them and they look at him and then they see something moving in the black goo and it comes up as like that weird snake looking alien thing I talked about earlier. But what do? The guy's just like, oh, that thing kind of looks weird. Let's move towards it. I'm gonna stick my hand out. It's just like, yeah, this is a creature I've never seen before. I'm gonna reach out my hand, just like, come on, you're like a pet. Come on, get out my hand. And then it obviously goes on his hand and it breaks his hand, goes up into his suit and just goes down his mouth and just like kills him on the inside. I don't know how it kills him, but it was gross to watch. It's like, dude, you asked to die there. It's like, who just sees like a creature they have never seen in their life and just thinks, you know what? I'm gonna put my hand out. I'm gonna touch that thing. It's just like, dude, why? You've never seen that thing before in your lifetime. Why? And then there's this part at the end that just really pisses me off. Is Charlize Theron's character, who I still praise to this day, one of my favorite working actresses in Hollywood. And at the very end, this like wishbone looking thing is rolling and like it's just going forward. It's just rolling forward, and the our final girl of the movie, I guess you could call her, and Charlize Theron are kind of running away from this thing. And the final girl, our main girl, is smart and she moves out of the way and she's like, "Oh yeah, but what's Charlize Theron do? She just keeps running forward. This thing is rolling forward, so Charlize Theron's just like, go away. I'm just gonna keep running forward. This is gonna do something for me."
Oh my god! It's chasing me! Get away! Oh my god, get away!
It's like, run to the side, run left, run right. That's gonna do something for you. It's just like, I'm gonna run forward. It's gonna save my life, guys. Hold on. That doesn't do anything. All in all, guys, 5 years ago when I first watched this movie, I would have told you not to watch this movie. I would have told you not to even bother checking it out or even checking it out out of morbid curiosity. But 5 years later, knowing what I'm going into, knowing what this movie is now, I actually kind of like it more, and I actually kind of enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I would rewatching it because this movie, sure, it's not an Alien prequel, it's not the movie we all wanted it to be, but it's still an actual decent time. It's a fun movie. It's an interesting movie. Sure, the commentary on life, it doesn't fit in the Alien universe, and it doesn't really work for me in this movie. But this movie is interesting. I would definitely recommend that you at least check it out once. If you don't like it, then I could understand. But I do think this movie is pretty underrated because a lot of people are shitting on this movie because it's not what the movie what they wanted. But as the movie that it is, trying to be a prequel to Alien, I liked it. So, what do you guys think about Prometheus? Have you seen it? What do you think about it? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Do you think this movie is underrated? Do you actually just not like this movie just because of the movie it tried to be? Let me know in the comments below and we shall talk about it. And if you like this video, like it. If you love to subscribe to the bell notification so you will get notified for all my latest videos. And of course, until all my next videos, see you all next time.